Prophet's early life and mission in Mecca. In the year 570, a child named Muhammad was born into a family in Mecca, a city in Arabia. Muhammad would later become the Prophet of Islam, a major world religion. Mecca was an important trade center back then, connected to powerful empires like the Sassanian, Byzantines, and Ethiopians. The city was ruled by wealthy merchant families, with the Quraysh being the most influential. Muhammad's father died before he was born, and his mother passed away when he was 6 years old. He was taken care by his grandfather from the Hashim clan. When his grandfather died, his uncle Abu Talib looked after him. As was the tradition, Muhammad spent some time with the desert family to learn their ways. This experience helped him appreciate the Arabic language and the patience of herders. In his 20s, Muhammad started working for a widow named Khadija, helping with her trading business. They eventually got married and had children together. When he was in his 40s, Muhammad began retreating to a cave on Mount Hira near Mecca to meditate. It was here that he had a significant experience. He heard the voice of the Angel Gabriel telling him to recite verses from what would become the Quran. Muhammad was hesitant at first, but eventually recited the first verses of what is now chapter 96 of the Quran. These verses talked about God as the creator of humanity. Initially, Muhammad only shared this experience with his close family, but as he received more revelations emphasizing the worship of one God, his followers increased. His message attracted not just the poor and slaves, but also important people in Mecca. However, not everyone accepted Muhammad's teachings. Some people, even within his own clan, opposed him. Many merchants also opposed his message because it challenged their beliefs. Despite this opposition, Muhammad was determined to spread the message of Islam. The Quran, which contains the revelation he received, stresses the idea of one God and the importance of moral responsibility. It talks about a final judgment where people's faith and actions will be weighed and they will be rewarded or punished accordingly. This concept challenged the beliefs of people in Mecca who practiced polytheism. After preaching openly for more than 10 years, opposition against Muhammad grew so strong that he worried about his followers' safety. To protect them, he sent some of these followers to Ethiopia, where a Christian ruler gave them shelter. However, the persecution in Mecca intensified. His followers were mistreated, harassed, and even tortured. Eventually, Muhammad ordered 70 of his followers to go to the town of Yathrib, later named Medina, hoping to establish a new base for the Islamic movement. In the fall of 622, he and his close friend Abu Bakr left Mecca to join these immigrants. Around the same time, leaders in Mecca were plotting to kill him. The plotters arrived at Muhammad's home only to find his cousin Ali in his place. Angry, the Meccans offered a reward for Muhammad's capture and pursued him. Muhammad and Abu Bakr took refuge in a cave where they stayed hidden. By some stroke of luck, the Meccans passed by the cave without noticing them, and Muhammad and Abu Bakr continued on to Medina. It was a planned migration marking the start of the Muslim era and a new way of life for Muhammad and his followers. The organization of the community shifted from blood ties to the brotherhood of all Muslims. Those who migrated with Muhammad were called Muhajirun or immigrants, where the Muslims in Medina who supported them were called Ansar or helpers. Muhammad was familiar with the situation in Medina. Earlier, some of its people heard his call to Islam during the annual pilgrimage in Mecca and invited him to settle there. After the immigration, Muhammad's qualities impressed the Medinans and they united against the Meccan pagans in a battle near Badr. Despite being outnumbered, the Muslims won, showcasing their discipline and strength. The Meccans retaliated a year later with an army of 3,000 facing the Muslims at Uhud. Although the Muslims initially succeeded, they were pushed back and Muhammad was wounded. 2 years later, the Meccans returned with an army of 10,000, but at the Battle of the Trek, the Muslims used a clever defense tactic, forcing the Meccans to retreat. After these battles, Medina was firmly under Muslim control.